somehow we all ended up able to put everyone together, which is fascinating. Hold on, there's some
Almost.
almost, yes. We're waiting for Tara. She has a little thing that's running over, but she'll be here in like 20 minutes.
Can you up?
Participants. I'm going
Yeah.
to okay. So whoever you guys are watching, go ahead and mute yourselves. And then we're going to start. And we're just going to go through, even though we know you guys probably already know most of us, maybe some of you don't. So we were just going to do a quick introduction of everyone. And just really, I think that over the last couple of weeks, I have talked with a lot of people about the event itself. And it's become much easier for me to articulate what it's about. And when I talk about it, it seems to turn into, oh my gosh, I had no idea, because the sales page doesn't do it justice. It is what it is. So we really wanted to get together for a lot of people. You guys filled out the forms, and there was a lot of people that were on the fence and then had questions. And if you didn't know us and you wanted to feel the vibe of what was going to be happening there, this is sort of the intention of the meeting. And Stephanie and I, and actually Celeste and I went live just and hung out, and it was really fun and people really liked it. Steffi and I went for like 2 hours, and people, we watched it 2 and 3 times, and I was like, really? Okay. So I was like, well, there's clearly benefit in this, so why don't we make an attempt to do it with everyone? So you guys feel free to, at any point, if you have questions that come up, you can drop them in the chat, and we'll get to them. But we will just start off by like quickly introducing ourselves, and then we'll just kind of go from there. Like, I'm Amber. I'll start because we all love doing this part. It's our favorite part. Um, I was a horse trainer for 20 something years. Not long ago, Celeste gave me permission to not reject my label of horse trainer. And so I'm still allowed to be a horse trainer. Um, and my focus had always been on quote unquote problem horses, and me recognizing that the common denominator typically was the human, which felt like the biggest block. And so, very long story short, and in many different places, the story exists. If you want to know more, there is a podcast on it. I shifted to supporting the humans. And so, this event is a hybrid of events that I have done that helped my horsemanship that had nothing to do with horses. And I realized that in the current state of clinics and expos, that really didn't exist. And I didn't know how to mesh the two. And so this is the meshing of the two, where my intention is really to have people that are in the stands be able to also go through a transformation as you guys are witnessing people. And a lot of the personal stuff is the horses will reflect it back to you, as well as the people in your life and your current situations in general. So I wanted to be able to have people have tangible differences when they left, not just, wow, I watched some really cool stuff. I wanted it to be like, holy crap. First of all, I didn't know how much more expansive my horsemanship journey can become, and how impactful it can be on the rest of my life at the same time. And also how now I have this gigantic, expansive family that I had no idea I was going to walk away with for support and a place to ask for help and like to celebrate. So smashing the two together was the intention of this, and it's feeling like that is very much what is happening. And so the reason I chose the people that are involved, all these presenters, is because I've known them, and each one of these ladies is very much authentic in their journey, very open about it, have all been in a very common way through the same things in a different way. And each of them are very specialized in the medicine that they bring forward. So I feel like the common theme with all of us is that anything that we're doing is rooted in connection, and then built off of that, whether it's through their body, the horse's body, your own body, um, any of that goes into everything that we do. So the other reason I love each of these presenters is because each one of them is so humble. And the fact that when we reached out to each person and was like, do you guys want to be a part of this? Everybody was so fangirling on the other people that they were like, oh, me, you know? And so the level of like humanness that is involved with presenters There is nobody that really thinks anyone is better than anyone. It is very much supportive, very safe space to connect. And I love them all so much. So I'm excited for everyone to get to know everybody. And then I'll pull up the questions after we do the introductions and we'll just see how things go. Um, okay, who wants to start? Okay.
I'll go. Why not? Let me get this over with because listen, I have anxiety about introductions and I swear it's because my last name used to start with a U. And in school, I would have to wait until like the very end and everyone, you know how people are like, "Oh, okay, like what's your name and like what's your favorite animal?" And like 10 people said horse before me and like ruined my answer.
I was Y and then upgraded to W and now finally L. So I get it. I was like,
I know. I feel like that anxiety stays with you. So I'm Shaylee, and I recognize so many faces in here, and it makes me so happy because I'm a social butterfly. I am an animal communicator, and so I've been communicating with animals since 2018. I got a horse that I thought was going to be like my eventing partner, and we are going to do all these fun, cool things together. And he had totally different plans for me, really humbled me, taught me a lot about entitlement, and set me on this path. And then I got a horse who was pretty fearful in his body, and the way that I was training him just wasn't conducive. Like everything that I knew wasn't conducive. And someone was like, "Hey, have you heard about this chick Celeste?" And I was like, "No." And met Celeste, and I asked her if we could like trade, if I could go to one of her clinics and like we could talk about animal communication. And yeah, she's been forcing me into things ever since. She's how I met Amber, and I feel like this is probably the largest event. Well, this is the largest event that I have been a part of, and I feel so grateful. And Celeste has been part of like every big adventure I've been on in the last several years. So I'm really grateful to be here. My specialty, I guess I would say, as an animal communicator, was kind of a medical medium for probably like the first 5 years that I communicated with animals. I just have a love for the body, horses specifically. And so I put a lot of time and energy into studying the body and learning like tendons and ligaments and like different symbols that I could use psychically to connect with animals. And after meeting Amber, she has also been a great little partner for me, my work wife. She has helped me expand into my other gifts, which is essentially now deeply seeing how everything that is connected with our horses is connected to us. There's, always an emotion underneath something. There's always an energetic tie. And so my main focus now is really helping people. I love empowering people. Like I really love for people to know the value of who they are and their inner essence and their ability to like speak and advocate for their horses. So I've been putting a lot of focus in, okay, what is your horse presenting? How is this matching up with what's going on in your life and your energy? And how can we empower both of you to find a state of wellness? So I'm just along for the ride, just a regular girl coming to this event, and I can't wait. I'm super excited.
So Shaylee's going to be co-hosting with me. So we'll be weaving in the themes of each day that go along with the actual presentations. So the people that are watching, you guys will also be going through some different, I don't call them exercises because that sounds so like, but there will be activities for you guys to participate in throughout the event, and we'll be weaving that in through the whole thing. So that's my co-host, my lovely co-host, my work husband. All right, who wants to go next?
I never volunteer for this, but I'm gonna go for it because Rhythm is currently in her high chair. So I have a small window of undivided, hopefully, attention. For those that don't know me, my name is Celeste. I'm super excited to come and do this and play with my favorite ladies. I've known all of you guys from completely different areas and places, and it just makes my little heart so happy that like we've all, like, I don't know, it's just we just all turned into a family, and I'm so excited to meet Dana and Ellie and Stephanie. And I have been like social media friends for a while, and I've like been not so secretly in love with her for a very long time. So I'm like super excited to meet her in person. So yeah, anyway. In terms of like this event, my focus is on treating and preventing suspected nerve compression in horses. And a lot of that stems from their nervous system in general being completely dysregulated. So them being like stuck in the sympathetic, having a lot of just resistance in their bodies. And that's something that a lot of humans deal with as well, that whether we are aware of it or not, you know, our bodies have holdings. And one of the things that I'm very passionate about teaching, aside from just anatomy and biomechanics, is how to teach owners how to really like map their horse's body and understand like how to gently go through and find the resistance within their horses from, you know, just neutral touch, gentle in hand work to all the way under saddle. And the cool thing about it is we're able to, like, it empowers the owner, caretaker, kahu, whatever you want to call it. But it also empowers the horse, because in the way that we do things, we're bringing awareness to the resistances. And then we're working with the horse to show them how to release it. Just like with the human bodies, we work with the humans to show them how to release their own holding. So they're not ever really like dependent on other people. And it's super profound and my favorite thing. And it just coincides with all of the other beautiful connections that these ladies do. So that's my jam. And I look forward to answering questions I'm going to meet before she gets really mad. So.
Yay. Yeah, Celeste introduced Shaylee and I after I did a podcast with Celeste, and I had met Tara through an expo that I did, and she was like, "You need to meet Celeste." And then I met Celeste, and Celeste was like, "You need to meet Shaylee," and she told, and then sent Shaylee was going to come on the podcast that I had a long time ago, and she's like, "I can't do that." And she's like, basically was forced onto the podcast.
You and I both. I messaged Shaylee and I was like, you're doing the podcast. Like, I kind of already signed you up for it. I know you didn't like agree to this, but like you're doing it because the world needs to know who you are. And you and Amber are like sisters, so you'll be fine.
Yeah, it turned out
Trust
great.
the process.
But yeah, the only reason why I did it is because I had so much respect for you. I was like, damn it, I cannot not.
Don't let me down.
I want to say I really appreciate that Tara's timing is basically going to be we're all going to introduce ourselves and she's going to hop on and then she's going to have to
It's like perfect, but it's perfect, Tara. It's like the most.
I'll go next, mostly because, you know, Shaylee followed Amber and Celeste is definitely my, you know, life partner that doesn't live with me. So it seemed like a good
currently. The saving grace is you're married to my brother, so you know. I guess I can approve.
I'm Catherine Lowry, Equilibrium Biomechanics. I am holding on to the last wisps of my voice to make it through this call. So it's been first off just an honor to sit on this panel and get to put faces to names to posts that I've read and been like, hell yeah, who is this person? And now to be at an event with all of you is just a dream come true. The magic that I like to bring and what I've learned in my life is how to work with rider biomechanics with exercises and movements that we can repeat in our day-to-day life to address not just postural wellness and balance, but also the physical root of fear, the physical root of disconnection, of being able to recognize, you know, what is us and ours versus to the point of, oh, wow, I can feel that is my horse's and that is not mine, because I can feel, you know, my body when I'm picking up this coffee mug, and what I'm feeling here is actually my equine partner's. And what I have started to understand through Celeste's help and Shaylee and Amber and Tara and getting to work with you lovely ladies in prior events is helping humans to inhabit their bodies as equestrians, as centaurs in all that they do in their life. So even when they are walking through Walmart or doing their dishes, we are thinking about how we are integrating and completing the energetic loop with the ground, and how our horses are part of that dance, and what we can do with the feelings that we have in our body, and driving our body into wellness without having to, try to make time to go to the gym. I love going to the gym, so I am one of those weirdos who will get up at 4 a.m. and do that. But I do also recognize these nods, yeah. But that's not for everybody either. And it's not going to, just like our horses, it doesn't do a whole lot of good. It could do more good if it's something that we can apply to how we're interacting with every surface and every entity that we're coming into, from random people that we meet, to our horses, to our cars, to the seat that we sit in. Just thinking about how it all fits together and our place within it.
Yeah, and so I didn't know anything about Catherine when we started doing elements of connection. And so I just knew that I knew everyone else. And they were like, Catherine has to come. So I was like, okay. And it fit in so perfect because it was stuff that I never understood. But then when you go through the exercises and you're feeling into what's going on in your body, it gives you such a different level of empathy for the horses, because of the things that we ask them. They're things that I never thought of, which I always say how embarrassing it was that I was a trainer for 20 years. I started horses. I took all of the horses that trainers had that were like, we're having problems, send it to Amber. I was like the little girl cowboy that would fix them or whatever. And I just think of the stuff that I asked their bodies to do and the way that I did it. And I quote unquote saw results, and it was fast. And I was like, that must mean I'm a really good trainer. But then I think about now the understanding that I have here, and then doing the exercises with Catherine, it really like sinks in like what I was about. It's like, oh God. So then we try to make sure we don't fall into guilt and do all the weird things, but to really fully understand that. And so that's why at this event, what I really wanted Catherine to do, as I wanted everyone, the entire everyone, not just the people that had their horses there, but all the people, to go through some of the exercises that she does with people, because they were so impactful for me and everyone that does them. And so I had asked Catherine to come, and when people come back from lunch, because that's when everybody's always like, like we ate and it's halfway through the day and I want to take a nap, to make it really interactive and have Catherine come in and show you guys and have you experience the things in your body. So that's going to be super fun, and I'm excited selfishly,
Yep.
because I like
Group
doing it.
fitness. We'll play some 80s music. I'll get some really bright clothes. It'll be great. No.
That's one of my favorite things about your part though, is like it becomes like a group fun thing. Like everybody kind of, because I feel like when you're just kind of sitting there watching, like we're all watching and we're all, invested, but there's something like just fun and special about like all getting up and being like, can we turn in a box? I don't know. And like it just like humanizes all of us, and it's cool.
Yeah, I love that it humanizes. And we get to go through that. I don't even know how to walk,
Because
and
they're
then
like, of
wait,
course
you
we can
do.
walk in a box.
Yeah, we'll teach everyone to walk in the box. It'll be great.
Yeah, until you realize you can't even walk in a box. You're like, wait a minute, what's happening to me? Oh, so good.
Then everybody laughs at themselves and everything's fine.
Yes, it's great. And then I think it's the fun part is like the participation, because with Elements of Connection, if you don't know, it's a clinic retreaty thing that we have done. Celeste, Tara, Shaylee, and Catherine and I the last couple years, which was like a smaller baby version of this. And the cool part is like we all got to participate in each other's stuff. So it wasn't like we were just trainers that were also facilitating these things. It was like we were also invested and doing it alongside of everybody. And I feel like it sometimes when you're in this like horsemanship journey, you're like, I'm the only one that can't figure this stuff out. And like, oh my gosh, am I the only one that's struggling at this stuff? And then when you get to like do it next to professionals that you assume have their like shit together, and then you're like, no, we're just humaning too, don't worry. There's so much more value in that, and it's so fun. So that's my favorite part about making it interactive, because we also as presenters will be interacting as well, and it's great.
At some point I'll cry, it's a guarantee. So
oh yeah, we're all gonna cry. In the best way, in the best way. Okay, who wants to go next?
I can go if you want me to. Okay, so I'm Steffi. Although I heard that Amber's, what is it? The predictive texting always wants me to be stuffy. It's okay. You can call me whatever you want. But I'm Steffi, and I am, well, you might know me as Science for Soundness, which is my heart baby. I don't know how to call it, but I've started this journey really when I had a horse that I brought to the UK with me, where I studied for my equine science degree. And she was starting to become really, really depressed in front of my eyes because she was kept in an environment that wasn't serving her. So I found her a little friend, and with that friend started my own first paddock paradise, which was amazing, but was also a bit of a shocker because I then was faced with the fact that this pony brought a lot of trauma with her, and I didn't know that previously. So this all really set me on this journey, or this path really, to discover or uncover what's actually underneath that. And yes, the equine science degree is amazing, and I learned so many incredible things during the BSc and the MSc, but that's not all of it. And I think that is the important thing. Like, science is great, and it's a huge foundation of what I do and who I am, but it's not all of me, and it's not all of what I do. And my little pony really brought that to light, because she wouldn't respond to all the training methods that I learned. She wouldn't, she wouldn't let me do anything really, wouldn't let me near her, and wouldn't, she basically was this huge mirror, let's just say that. And it was hard to face that. But when I did finally, and sort of dove into that, I found that, well, not just Science for Soundness is not just the physical part, but there's so much more to it. So I made that my mission, really, to bring that out into the world, teach people about how to train their eye to see their own horses, because I think that's what I'm really good at. I see people, I see horses. And yeah, I'm just super excited to connect with all of you. And Celeste, the love is mutual. Secretly, not so secretly. But like with everyone here, I just feel like this is such an incredible space to be in. And it just already, to me, feels like soul family to come home to, really. And I haven't met any of you in real life in person yet, but I think that's what makes this event so special. So when Amber asked me if I wanted to hop on this slot, I couldn't say no. I had to do it. I wanted to be there as well, because yeah, every one of you brings such amazing things to this that I can't wait to experience. Yeah.
Yeah, Shaylee and I had Steffi on our podcast, and I don't know if it happened after we got off. I think it happened while we were on, where we were like, you should probably be here with us. We just fell in love with her immediately. So we were like, we didn't really even talk about it. We were like, do you want to come to California?
I was like, yeah, sign me
I
up.
don't that, but
Yep.
yeah, so exciting.
I had no idea. I didn't even know that you were on the podcast. And I think I can't even tell you what it was, this one video that you posted on Instagram at some point, and I heard you talk. I saw you, I heard you talk, and then it was I couldn't even tell you what the topic was about. And I was like, I love her. She needs to come over here. And then Amber announced it, and I was like, what? So excited. So fangirly.
So fun. Yeah. And I will say, a lot of us actually had never met at EOC. I hadn't met I hadn't met Shaylee in person until that event. And I hadn't actually, I think the only person I had ever met was Tara, and it was very briefly, just being introduced.
Yeah.
And everybody else was but we as soon as we were in each other's space, it was like, oh, we know each other. We're all here.
Yeah, you and I met, you popped in at the clinic that I was at Heather's. I don't know if Heather's still in here, but for a minute, there was a quick blip where you came over, and then you met me and Heather, and we were like, oh yeah, we're all family. That's weird and not weird all at the same time.
Yeah, it was so easy. And yeah, and that's when I got into that clinic, and Heather was outside, and I walked up, and I think she was on here. I don't know if she's still on here. But it was like, oh, hi, nice to meet you. We hugged. I was like, I love you.
Yeah.
What happens? It's what's going to happen at the event. I don't know how to explain it, but you come into contact with these people who are like, oh, okay, I know you, and it's very comfortable and very healing.
I'm going to cry. I'm going to say that already. Disclaimer.
Well, I'll just prepare for it. Fine. We're all used to it at this point.
Yeah.
Shaylee and I didn't know that we could cry until these events. So, that was fun.
Yeah, that's so true. We did
Well,
it
because-
together.
Yeah, that opening ceremony at the first ERC, Shaylee challenged me. She's like, by the way, I don't cry, so good luck. And I was like,
You were like,
challenge accepted. I looked over and I saw her and I was like, how twisted that I'm celebrating. But they don't want to be all
Yeah, that was intense because like every being in my body was not gonna let that happen. And then Celeste put her hand on my back and I was like, fuck.
I was like, this is, yeah, it was bad. It's so good though, in the best way. So good.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah, I told Steffi when I met Steffi, I literally was like, hey, I'm weird. I'm an animal communicator and I use your train your eye videos to test my intuition. Can we be friends?
And I was like, hell yeah.
Oh, so good.
Oh, so funny. Okay. Ellie, Dana, who wants to go?
I'll go ahead.
Yay.
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Well,
Yeah.
hi, I'm Dana Lovell, and it is an honor to be part of this event. And every single woman on this screen has inspired me and has helped to make me feel less alone here in South Central Idaho, fighting the good fight sometimes. And so it's so excited to get everybody together. And I'm a newfound cat person. Fun fact. All my life, I've said I'm not a cat person, I'm a dog person. And I just recently caught 2 kittens out in the woods of my front yard and nursed them back to health. And it turns out I'm a cat person. Just a little fun fact. So I live in South Central Idaho. My journey looks a little bit like doing lots of traditional horsemanship, wanting to kind of make a name in the world and doing the things and going through the motion and saying the phrases that everybody else said that was successful, but always knowing that didn't feel right. And just a monumental moment that I remember on my own journey is I was asked to present at the Idaho Horse Expo. And it wasn't a paid gig. It was just, why don't you come? Some people had mentioned your name, and it was terrifying and scary. And I had all of these things that I planned on talking about or sharing that were, how to load a horse in the trailer or how to gain your horse's respect. And none of it felt good. And it sounded like I was trying to please everybody else and felt that way as well. And I decided to show up and get weird and do me. And I remember shaking. I could hardly speak, and I was shaking so bad that the microphone was bouncing off my lip and making that noise that was reverberating off the walls of the indoor building. And it took me a minute. I scanned the crowd. I saw some familiar faces who gave me that look of I believe in you, and I felt it, and I did the things. And from that moment on, it was like pathways opened up, and I was given the confidence to get weird and help the, for a lot of times I started colts under saddle. I started a lot of colts for local ranchers. They would give me crap about what I did and how I did things, but they would always be happy with the results. So I kept getting business, and that's how I supported my family, fed my kids. And then I started realizing, and I'd get the problem horses and started realizing that I could help the horses all day long, but unless I helped the people to help the horses, there got a point where it felt like it was for nothing. And I, and the same thing I'd always say, I like horses. I'm not a big fan of people. And the horses speak to me. The horses are my safe space. And it turns out that I actually really do like people as well. And so helping the human to help the horse, helping the human just as much as I have felt drawn to help the horse feel seen and heard, that I really do enjoy helping the human to feel seen and heard and supporting them in their horsemanship journey. And also I have found, like in my area, something that really brings me joy is how many times I hear people say, I've always felt like in here, the things that I was asked to do with my horses when I went to clinics or make my horses do or be pushed or guilted or shamed into doing didn't feel right, but I did them anyways. and then they would carry that shame forward and then would verbalize later, admit that, but then they kept doing it and they kept going back because they felt like they weren't successful unless they did. And it's so rewarding to offer that people that space to ask questions, to advocate not just for their horses but for themselves, and to ask the hard questions and to feel supported and inspired to stand their ground and be okay with the answers they get or don't get, for that matter, so that they be okay in the moment of discomfort with those interactions, with the questions they ask, but then also really then find joy in the comfort that they have when they walk away and feel good about what they did, if any of that makes sense. And I've also found in the area that I'm in, and kind of my specialty is the balance between the woo and the do. I recognize some of the names that are in the chat here or in the Zoom call, and they know that that's kind of my forte, and what I'm known for is honoring yourself and the horse, but also going and doing things. I compete in ranch riding and showing. I event, ride dressage and ride jumpers. And so how can we go and do the things, but also maintain our integrity and, physically, mentally, and emotionally. And so it's been fun locally here to plant seeds and to those that maybe are curious about, and to normalize. That's what I just made notes for myself. I had all these amazing thoughts. Normalizing that the woo, or what people seem as silly or ridiculous or too far out there, to try to normalize it and make it approachable and understandable and less intimidating for some people, and invite them to ask questions about it. And so, yeah, I'm looking forward to meeting everybody, because I've not met not a one of you in person. So I'm pretty excited.
I know. I feel like I stumbled upon a post Dana wrote, it was years ago, and I just randomly started following. And I was like, I don't know, but I feel like you understand me.
Yeah.
You understand my journey. I feel
I,
like you are
I
me.
feel like you get me. I see you.
Yeah. So when I was thinking about who, I wanted it to be a little bit diverse. I wanted it to be, I think the elements of connection girls, like we've all done the things, and I was like, but how can I pull like an extra couple like random out of like pocket people that aren't already involved? And I was like, oh, Dana.
I
Like,
totally want to be the random out of pocket person. It's very appropriate.
yeah, and I was like,
That's
and we
me.
pull a couple extra countries in here, and we're great. We're like a soup now.
It's a very nourishing soup.
Yes.
Very it and to me, the question was asked, and it's been brought up, the word connection, and I was asking myself, what is connection? Or if somebody asked me, what is connection, and I came up the answer: connection is awareness. And that can look so many different ways and present itself in different ways, and mean different things to different people, but that was kind of my foundation of being aware, being present, on my own journey, especially recently, which really has me tapping into helping the human to help the horse, of, really digging into my own trauma. I've even found the word trauma seems to be such a buzzword right now. And again, it has so many, I even find myself being hesitant to say the word, though I shouldn't. And I've explored within myself why I'm hesitant to use that word. But really digging into my own trauma and how that's created the patterns of where my nervous system is at, depending on which interactions I'm having and experiences I'm in, and has really made me very empathetic to the human, has a greater understanding of the horse. And I just know that this experience, not just for those that we are presenting for, but also myself, is I'm going to gain just as much from this as I think anybody else that's bought a ticket and is coming to participate.
Yeah, that's the fun part, is that we do actually get our own benefits from doing these things as well. So yes, we're all on the journey with you guys. And Ellie, you want to go? I just saw Tara somewhere. I'll add her. Okay, go ahead, Ellie.
Kia ora koutou. Ko wai o, who am I? Ko tarawira tōku maunga. Ko te awa atua tōku awa. Ko Ngāti Rangitihi tōku iwi. Ko Te Arawa tōku waka. Ko Ellie aho. So Tarawira is my mountain. The river of the gods is my river. Ngāti Rangitihi is my tribe, and Te Arawa is my waka, my canoe that came to Aotearoa. And I am Ellie. So this question, ko wai o, just a few years ago, I was at a retreat and this question was asked, and I couldn't answer that question. I had not long come out of a really abusive relationship. And I was at this point in my life where I didn't know who I was anymore. And I was kind of like, did I ever know? And so that was a big shock and wake-up call. And this question of ko wai o, who am I, sent me on this massive journey of self-discovery. And at that time, I had been a horse trainer for the last decade or more, and had had some beautiful experiences and beautiful horses and people come into my life. And to kind of paint a picture, I had this horse called Ace come into my life, and he was purpose-bred to be a really high-level World Cup level show jumper, and he had all this beautiful talent, but he had just been fried. He had been pushed and pushed and pushed to the point where he would colic if you changed him into a different paddock. He'd colic if you at dinner time, and so he was sent to me as a last resort. One day we had a body worker out to do some work on him, and he was a big horse. He was around 17.3, and she put her hand up onto his jaw, and he just went to run her over. And in that moment, I had this thought of, I wonder what would happen if I just moved with him. And so, not to belittle her work, the next time I was out there on my own, I put my hand up onto the same spot where she had had her hand, and he went to do the exact same thing. And so he pushed all of his weight into my fingers, like it's like indents around my fingers. And I just started to step back, the rule in horsemanship that we're not allowed to do, and move with him. And so we moved together for a good few minutes, and all of a sudden he came to a stop, and he dropped his head right down and started rolling his eyes and snorting, and I could just see all of this energy dissipating out through his body. And at that point I was like, I don't know what just happened, but something big just happened. And so I started to play with that all over his body, and I saw these massive changes in him, and I started to think, wow, it's like there's this connection between his brain and his body. And now looking back, I kind of laugh at that because I'm like, wow, that is right there is sums up the Western world of separating out the mind from the body. And so it was such a powerful thing to realize, actually, this is all together. Everything is connected. And then so fast forward into this next journey of learning about my culture, where I came from, I'm Māori from Aotearoa, and a big part of the trauma for us is we were colonized, and my grandmother was beaten for speaking her own language, and so that intergenerational trauma has come down through into us, and we see that in the way that we work with horses. And I always thought, oh, it was just a me problem until I started on this journey and I realized that it's actually in so many of us, and not just here in Aotearoa, but all over the world, this feeling of who am I, and this disconnection from the mind and the body and everything else. And so now, like Amber said at the beginning, learning these things that aren't even to do with horses and training and all the different exercises that we can do that are beautiful. But this piece of who am I, where do I belong, a connection to everything from Tāwhirimatia, the wind, to Hine Moana, the water, to Hine Ahuone, the first woman that was created by the hands of Tāne, and how we fit into that and our connectedness, and then how that just makes my relationship so much more beautiful with horses and how healing that is. So that is my work now, is this question of how can we indigenize our work with horses? What would have that looked like for my ancestors pre-colonization, that connection? And I have this picture in my mind of like Avatar, that Avatar moment where they plug in and they plug into source with the tree and their animal. I can't remember what it's called, but so that's kind of my vision. And I think the work I do is just a melting pot of all of the pieces that I've picked up along my journey. And yeah, so I'm so excited to meet everyone and share these gifts. We always say tupuna led, so that is our ancestors, and mokopuna decisions, so our grandchildren, and everything else to come after us. So, hi, thank you for having me.
Yeah, I remember watching LA years and years and years ago, and I don't even know how I got connected. I feel like you were working for Warwick. This was so long ago. This was Warwick when he was a trainer. And I just had followed you on social media, and it was interesting to watch like the progression of like what you were doing. And it was so similar to like a lot of people that I knew. So same thing. I was like, who can I pull? Like, oh, Ellen, of course. So thank you so much. She's coming all the way from New Zealand to hang out with us. So we're so excited. And Tara's here. Perfect timing. We said you're gonna show up just as it was your time to go. You're muted. There we go. There you go. Oh, you're so quiet. Is it just me?
No, what's going on?
Oh, there you are. All right. I don't know what's happening. Can you guys hear her? Sort yourself out, girl. Sort yourself out.
You do have a really soft voice, but it ain't that soft.
Okay, is that better?
Oh, yep.
There you are.
I haven't yet figured out what it is, but switching back and forth between the two, eventually one becomes loud.
Can you get closer to the mic on it, or is it on your laptop?
It's on my laptop.
No, I wonder if it's the mic on there.
I think I need a
That's so quiet.
mic, I guess. Anyways, I'll just project. I'll put my trainer voice on. Hi, thank you so much for having me. I'm so excited to be here, and as always, just so honored and humbled to be able to be within such a group of incredible people, and everyone within, seeing the names pop up of all the attendees, just so delightful to be here connecting with all of you. Thank you all for being out here. I completely missed what we're doing. I'm assuming introductions, yeah? Okay, perfect. I guess I'm Tara Davis. My business is Unbridled Goddess, and gosh, what do I do? A combination of many things, but you know, a horse-led approach to all things, and diving into and exploring all of the nuances of conversation and communication connection with the horse through a variety of different modalities, but liberty always being my heart and the core focus of the work that I do, and with the goal of creating a connection with the horse based on autonomy, based on as much autonomy as possible. I've spent many years exploring the realms and the reaches of autonomous horsemanship, and then also exploring the ways in which the lessons that I've learned from going into those spaces with the horse and allowing it to be such a free and completely horse-led manner, and then seeing how to bring that in some practicality to the horse world that we have here, and just learning slowly how to intertwine the lessons of that into kind of the variety of different approaches that people want to take, and learning to never see the world in black and white, seeing always through the nuance in the conversation, allowing the horse to bring that to the conversation by empowering them to have a voice, no matter what tack or lack of tack we have on them. My deep passion is for classical dressage, but learning to through the call of the horses, learning to allow them to show me their pridefulness and their joy and love of movement, and the way that that should be the heart of what, you know, any classical dressage approach should be rooted in. And yeah, I'm hoping to bring to the clinic just amongst all of these absolutely incredible people who I'm just like so in awe of, and so have such deep respect and admiration for, another facet of the horse human experience, and just learning to synthesize the lessons that the horses have taught me, and bringing them into the humans, how to connect with the horse in different ways, whether it's, you know, in a clinic setting, or being able to take that at home, connecting to yourself, and how the connection to self is always at the root of the connection to the horse, the microcosm of the macrocosm. The way we connect with our horses is the way that we connect with all things.
I can't remember who was talking about, there was a conversation, and I feel like it was with Celeste, but we were talking about how, speaking to that, where you're like, how you connect with and it was about you making coffee and how you're so intentional about the way you make coffee, like how she makes coffee, how she works with horses, and how she connects with other people.
Tara can attest. Tara is the living embodiment of how you do one thing is how you do all things, and I just want to be Tara when I grow up. That's
true. We all think that. It's my favorite story to embarrass her with, but it is like she is my one exception. She's the one person that I've ever met that you know, like you meet somebody, like you meet, like there's certain celebrities, like there's a particular music artist that like I will never meet in person because I love him so deeply that he cannot fail me. And I have an unrealistic expectation of who he is. And so I just will never meet him, and I will be happy and he will be happy and life will continue. But that's how it was for Tara. I saw her on social media for like a year, I think, before we were friends. I was so in love with her and so enamored with her. And I was like, I can never speak to this person. Like, I can never meet her. I can never speak to her. I'm just going to be like, just all the time, because because inevitably I'll have to meet her, and then, you know, it'll disappoint me and it'll be so sad. And then she friended me on Facebook, and I cried and screeched and like showed my husband, and I was like, oh my God, Tara Davis knows who I am. And it was a whole thing.
messaged me.
Yeah, like, yeah, I messaged Catherine too, and I was like, I screenshotted it and I was like, look at this. And then I know, are you ready yet? And then however much time had passed, she booked me for a clinic to come down, and I was like, yeah, no pressure. And she had me come and stay in her home for the clinic. And you know, I mean, when you're in somebody's home, you like really see them. And I was like, here we go. I'm gonna meet her. I'm gonna be in her house. Some, you know, whatever. No, it just got worse. Just got worse. I'm even more in love with her today than I was way back then, because everything that she does is so intentional and exactly, it's just connection. It's not perfection. It's just you are the living embodiment of connectedness and how you pull the baling twine out of hay and how you do certain things. And it's just fucking beautiful. And being around that energy uplifts everybody else and inspires us to get into that space over and over and over again. And it's the most beautiful thing. You don't even have to teach. It's just that. And that is a really incredible thing. And I get the honor of doing courses with her now. So, you know,
Oh my goodness.
I love you.
Well, now that I'm all choked up and can barely not expecting that. Oh my goodness.
Like people
Anyway.
crying already. It's great.
I appreciate that. I feel very deeply that the way you do one thing is the way you do all things. And if we can bring that tenderness and love and like beginning to connect with our horses, that allowing us to do that to ourselves, and that we all are deserving of that same love and empathy and connection
100%.
we want to give to our
Something. Yeah, and I was kind of saying in the beginning that the reason I love this group of people is because everybody is very honest with where they're at, and they're also actively out doing the things with the horses. Like nobody here is, you know, oh, I have all these ideas that I've been saying the same thing for 20 years and I don't actually even touch horses anymore. And it's like we're all actively having an experience where the horses are leading the next thing we're supposed to learn, and it's evolving. And I don't think anybody here is so set in what they believe that it can't be shifted if something different shows up. And I think that that gives permission to anyone who's actually joining us at the event to be able to have that same experience instead of going into, oh, wow, like I've been doing it this way, and no one's going to go, ew, oh my gosh. It's like, yeah, we all have done it that way.
Done
That's
that.
the way we all did it. We all built our careers on doing it that way, and we were all really good at it. And also it never really felt that great. So how could we combine something that keeps the integrity of what we may or may get from the horse? And I know that the priorities usually shift within that process, but that you can still go out and have the performance stuff that you want to do in a way where the horse is actually connected with you and doing the things with you on board with lots of reciprocity. And because there's no tension being held in the body and they're actually comfortable in their nervous system doing the things, then you don't get all the breakdown. And even if behaviorally, I feel like they don't start to communicate that they don't like that with us, like their bodies are going to break down. So it's so funny that in the beginning, me being a trainer for however many years, never really made the connection that the body and the mind and the nervous system and all of these things were such an integral part of it. Like it's so embarrassing to say, but it was like I didn't ever look at their body as something that actually actually mattered. It was like, yeah, I could get their body where I needed it to be, depending on what, you know, discipline I needed to be in. And I thought that was success until I realized, well, horses are going lame and they're getting shut down and now they don't want to move forward. Um and yeah, so yeah. So I think that's for a lot of people though, because it's not talked about as far as how do we the do the thing where we're keeping the integrity of the body and also working towards goals, whatever those are, whether they're just, I want my horse to be sound and happy walking down a trail with me, or I want to go compete. It's like, how do we do all those things? And it's like, you can. I don't think you have to forego one without the other. But also sometimes the priorities change along the path, and maybe all of a sudden those things aren't quite as important as they were. But I think people need like the living example of what that looks like and what it can look like, because I also feel like sometimes, like Ellie was saying, oh, I had my hand here and I stepped back. Well, in horsemanship land, oh, now the horse is pushing into you and they're going to take advantage of you. And there's all these old dated thought processes that go on that while there is level of, obviously there's boundaries still, well, what do boundaries look like from both ends? You know what I mean? And how much more potent that is and how much more sustainable it is. It's like, I feel like people need to see it happening in real time, which is why it's felt so important, because I think sometimes that stuff gets like kind of talked down on, like, oh, you're like, you're like doing the thing where you're like friends with the horse. And it's like, well, I mean, like, why did we all get into this to begin with? I mean, did you not like horses when you were a little kid and like want to be their friend? Like, why all of a sudden is that like something we need to be ashamed of, that we care about how they feel about what we're asking them to do? It's so odd to me, where that, especially if me coming from cow horse world, coming from cutting, it was kind of like, yeah, like pull them around, kick them in the belly, go get the fucking cow. And it was like, okay, but like I also want the horse that, you know, is also getting judged on expression to look like it's enjoying what it's doing. And maybe we could both have fun doing the things, you know, and how it's interesting that it's been made to be kind of like a weird thing. And I think there was a big shift happening. So I think that that's why this is so fun, because everyone here really embodies like that part of it where no, you can do all the things and everyone can be happy doing it. So yeah, I love all of that. Do you guys have anything that you want to add to anything?
Well, I'm
It's
sure.
really
Sorry, go ahead.
and
Zoom lag.
sorry. I was just going to say it's really interesting. And this, you saying that makes me think of a conversation I had recently with an elderly man, and he was talking about when he was young, and horses were a big part of their life, to be able to go out into the bush to get food to bring home for their families. And he said to me, if the horse wasn't our friend, you know, when we go to sleep at night in the bush and we wake up in the morning, if our horse isn't still there waiting for us, then, you know, and so he said their relationships were built on trust and partnership. So I think it's this weird misconception that we have to be dominant and controlling to have a horse that is still going to be able to do things with us and for us and perform or whatever it is.
Yeah, there's such a misconception around that, and I I think Amber speaking, you know, tying those two ideas together of like what we've lost as a culture, as many cultures across the world has lost, is that understanding that like the collaborative effort is always going to be the most fruitful, especially when there's elements of like, yeah, you have to go to sleep and wake up and trust that that animal is going to be there with you and for you in those moments. And because we have such a performance mindset in so much modern horsemanship, but speaking to the idea of like having some other idea or other approach, or like wanting your horse to be your friend is being weird. But as a positive reinforcement based trainer for a long time, there's so much misconception out there of like, if you did that, then your horses were rude and pushy and, you know, never listened to you, and you didn't mind them not listening to you because you weren't allowed to have boundaries because they were your friend. And it's so interesting how in losing the nuance of the conversation, we lost the ability to understand that like being somebody's friend didn't necessarily mean that you allowed them to just like trample all over you and become this, like you become a doormat, but rather that it's that conversation, being able to have nuanced conversation interspecies in a relationship in which neither of you speak the same language, and being able to develop lines of communication in which you could develop trust, you could develop communication. I remember being on I was invited on a podcast that was widely known in the horse world, and the hosts were like grilling me on how it was impossible that my horses could be trained to do, you know, like daily things with positive reinforcement. They'd be so miserable, and like my vets and my farriers must hate me. And it's just so interesting because I've had the complete opposite experience where vets and farriers, both for, you know, for emergency calls and for reproductive calls, where you're having to like do these intense procedures with the horses, and having a horse that is able to opt in to every interaction, and how willing they are to opt in because they've had nothing but the possibility for them to have a voice and how they are there. They're the horses that wake up. You wake up in the morning and they're next to you because you allowed them to have a voice in the conversation. But yeah, it's just so interesting how in the performance world where, progress and success is based on being able to get there the fastest and win the most money and all that. It forced them to strip the voice away from the horse. And then when you do that, when you give the horse the chance to say no, of course they're going to say no because they need to practice expressing their voice and expressing their boundaries because they've never been allowed to have them before. But yeah, it's an interesting dynamic between like what we've lost and then how losing that has shifted the lens through which people see our interactions with other beings.
Yeah, and the boundary thing is interesting because I think my favorite relationships and the safest relationships are where people get to say no and get to say how they actually feel. So it's interesting that so many people are raised to feel weird about boundaries. Like boundaries will push people away. Boundaries are mean. Boundaries, and I'm like, boundaries are like a love language. Like boundaries are great. And I think once you realize, I think part of the human side of it is there are so many people with beliefs around that stuff and why if they looked at positive reinforcement as like bribery or whatever it is, it's like the boundary thing. I think we're just raised to be, do what you're told. And, I think it's shifting now, but the people have a story about what boundaries are. So they get uncomfortable creating boundaries with their horses, with people in their lives, and they end up with very unhealthy relationships. And also the relationships with their horses are usually what they go to because they're feeling unheard and unseen and disconnected from people in their lives. So like, well, maybe I can go to the horses to get that. And when that starts to sort of fall apart, I think that's when they come. So the horses are just ushering you into this next level of your life and your understanding of like what relationship can actually be. And it is safe and it is with boundaries, which is, I think, an idea that sometimes people don't connect the two.
One of my favorite questions to ask people when I'm working with them is, what does a boundary look like? Defining what does the word boundary mean to you? It's always interesting to hear the different answers and how their past experiences, and oftentimes the answer they give is associated to their horse and what they've learned through traditional horsemanship. The answer is supposed to be, well, boundary looks like my horse not walking all over me. My boundary looks like my horse getting in the trailer when I ask them to and not saying no. It's always fun to really explore what does the word boundary mean? And not just what does it mean, but what kind of feeling does it instill in you when you talk about boundaries or when you envision what boundaries look like? Because I know I feel the safest when I have people in my life that are consistent, predictable, and reliable with their boundaries. And so I, talk about how does make your horse feel safe by being consistent, predictable, and reliable with the boundaries that we offer them. And same thing with my children. That was a big thing for me. I've become a better horsewoman because I'm a mother, and I've become a better mother because I'm a horsewoman. And I have a boy, yeah, that's on the spectrum, and he is like a sensitive, snorty colt. If there is like, he can read somebody's intention and energy. It doesn't matter what they're speaking or what they're saying to him. It doesn't mean anything if they're not congruent with what they're feeling or vibrating. And he's been such a big example for me to be more aware of what those look and feel like. But the boundaries, defining boundaries it's an interesting topic within the horse world. And then really exploring, not just practicing right horsemanship when you're with your horse, but it's lifemanship, being aware of, like Tara was talking about, exercising those things outside of our interactions with our horses, with those around us and within ourselves too. And being aware of those patterns that we create and then what that elicits within us, physically, energetically, and then going forward with that.
Yeah, I just talked earlier on a call for some of the ticket holders, and we talked about how the congruency is such a big thing. And I think that there's a misconception where people think they have to be calm or relaxed or XYZ to be around the horses. Like you have to somehow think you're going to pretend, like fake it till you make it, when in fact, like the horse is always freaking no. So the better deal is just to come and say, the awareness, which is part of the process that has been integrated into when you buy a ticket, you get an online portion of this where it's like the awareness of where am I at today, and I'm responsible for that, so that you're not spilling over onto them and making everything you see around you as proof to that you're anxious, or proof that, it's like they just want you to come as who you really are. And if you don't know that, then you feel very unsafe. And I think everyone has had the experience where someone comes up and you're like, hi, how are you today? And they're like, I'm fine. And they're very much not fine. And all you want to do is run away. That's how they feel. So the congruency is it's such a big thing. And it's like just the acceptance of where you are. I think people are so hard on themselves and so judgmental of themselves and their journey and their relationship they have with their horse. If it's not looking like ideal, or if it looks like, if it looks like it's not supposed to look and they are having problems, quote unquote, they get really judgmental around that and kind of want to reject that when it's like, just, this is where you're at and that's okay. And to have a group of people around you going, yeah, and we were also there. And it doesn't mean there's anything wrong with you. It just means this is where you're at right now. And like, now you have all these different resources to tap into to figure out like, what is the right avenue for you to like unwind this stuff for the horse,
Right. I tell people all the time that to be congruent, like you're saying, you don't have to pretend, fake it to make it. And it's give yourself permission to set your expectations accordingly for how you're feeling in the moment. And just to give permission to do that, and permission to yourself, that so that then you can feel successful and get that dopamine hit and feel like you've met a goal. But how important it is to set your expectations appropriately and accordingly for how you're showing up that day. I know one of my biggest pet peeves is the whole leave your feelings at the barn door, leave them at the gate, leave your baggage at the gate. Yeah, it's really unrealistic and way to set all kinds of people, everybody up for failure.
Yeah. We did have a bunch of questions, but I feel like, well, it's let's say I have to that we're like coming into an hour and 15 minutes. I just wanted to maybe check in with everybody and just feel into how you are feeling about going into the event, like your experience knowing that it's coming up in like a few days. That's stressful. Not a few days, many more days but it's like 12 days or something. Leading up to it, and like kind of what you want to be able to, and knowing that this can change, because all of us are very in the moment. And if you are coming to the event, you must know that this is why it's so hard for us to lock down what we're going to do. We have the horses, we have the people, but the energy of who is there will shift what we do with everyone and what we say and how we show up and the container that we create. But as of in this moment, like, how are you guys feeling about moving into it? And like, what is your intention? Like, what do you really want people to get from the experience they have with you guys individually with whatever you're presenting? I guess is a good question to ask. Whoever needs to leave the meeting first can go first. Okay, let's do Celeste since she's got the babe.
I misunderstood. I'm sorry. I thought we were waiting for people that were attending, not us. I suck.
Oh,
I was
no.
also talking. I was trying to bribe my daughter out of the room while we were doing this. So
no, for you guys leading up to it as facilitators, as presenters, like,
oh yeah.
what do you kind of want? What do you want to bring as far as like the experience for people? And I was saying, we all know that who we are going to feel into the energy of who's actually there, and it will shift maybe, but at this current moment, like, well, what is the thing that you really want people to get from it?
Well, I mean, I really loved how Ellie was talking about, and correct me if I'm wrong, but the energy of what you're talking about is around really just getting people to tap into their intuition, because that's what I find a lot, especially with like my mom was Native, and so I was raised a lot with Native American horsemanship, and it's really funny playing around with that in the colonization realms of really what's come across the board is just this like heavy gaslighting that everybody gets under over this idea of like, and this is how we do things, whether you're looking at it from horsemanship to religion to whatever. And what I have found across the board and what I hear every single person in here talk about is like the thing that lights us up is when we get that client that's like, I always knew this didn't feel good. I was told to do this to my horse and it didn't feel good. Or my horse something about my horse didn't like it, but they were gaslit and everybody else was doing it and it seemed like the right thing to do. And then, they meet somebody, like they meet one of us or somebody else that comes in and says, hey, actually that thing that you felt all along, that inner voice, that inner guidance, that ability to communicate, that ability, whatever you want to call it, you were right all along. And it's like it's the most empowering, beautiful thing. I just had a really long voice memo with a trainer of mine this morning, and she got to have that experience for the first time with a client. And it was just like, nothing lights you up more than to sit there with the person and be like, you were right. Like, you actually know your horse better. You actually know your body better. And to help bring that back in. And so, yeah, I mean, that's my favorite thing to bring anywhere that I go. And I love that it ties in with what everybody here does. We all do it in a different way. We all have a different language and how we do it. I really have played a lot, depending on my audience, right? Like if I'm in a room full of veterinarians at a college, I'm going to use a lot more anatomical terms, but it's the same essence there as it is when I'm in the super hippie woo and we're talking about charging our crystals, right? Like it's the same thing across the board. It's just playing with the language. And when Shaylee and I met, it was funny because we decided to do a trade. And I'm sure you do, but like I remember one of the horses that you were having us talk to and like the details that were coming up for me. And I was sitting there like, there's no fucking way this is true. Like there's no way that this is in any way accurate. And it was around a horse that like had gone through a really wicked accident. And you didn't say anything about any of these things. And I was like, I don't know. And you're like, just the first thing, like you have to trust it the first thing. And I'm like super resistant and I was second guessing myself. And I had this whole story around the fact that I don't do animal communication. And I was talking to Catherine about it. And Catherine's like, are you stupid? Like you were doing animal communication with Dragon sitting next to me. And like you had the whole thing mapped out. And that's how you knew all of these things. And I was like, but I didn't call it that. And it was just such a fascinating experience to be between you two ping-ponging back and forth. And then I like get to come home to myself and be like, oh yeah, huh? Like I've done it all along. I've had it all along. And you just have to take this traditional crap of like, it doesn't exist off of you in this this stripping, I guess. I don't know. I don't even know if any of that makes sense, but that's what I'm really excited to bring to everybody and why I'm excited for this group.
I want to tell my really quick animal communication story with Shaylee. I mean, there are many, and there are many that I haven't but probably the funniest one for me to date was when Shaylee and I were talking about Angelina and her recovery, and literally moments after I did my Facebook post, the vet had just left. Angelina's still here because Elvira was my black mare, and Eve's daughter is just screaming at the top of her lungs when the vet and I are deciding whether or not we're going to pull the plug because of quality of life. And the vet, who is a Utah vet, and he is just a cowboy, goes, she's saying no. So I was like, okay, all right. So we're both agreeing that we're not doing this because that black horse over there said no. Okay, totally cool. I'm down. And then I can't wait to tell Shaylee about this. And I need to reach out to Shaylee to ask her questions and have her, because I trust Shaylee. And then I get this from Elvira. I'm on it. Like, that was weird, but okay. And then basically getting around to Shaylee got a nudge. I was like, did it sound like the Kool-Aid to him? Because that's how Elvira sounds to me. When she comes in, she's like, I don't remember what it is the Kool-Aid man says when he busts through the wall, but that's definitely the energy when she enters the chat room. Anyway, totally sidetracks, but that's the level of trust that I have in these ladies, is having the experience with all of them that I know personally, and I'm sure those that I don't know personally will get to play with the consistency, not only with which you have in your own lives, but the consistency and the trust and confidence that you give back to us who reach out to you and say, I need help. And it's say, yep, no, Angelina has this really sweet, soft voice. And I like reading that. It's like special note on the side, like all other things aside from what happened. I just want you to know Angelina has the softest voice. And I read that. And let me tell you, I am like full on weeping all of my makeup off because I had spent years telling people that Angelina was not dangerous, she was misunderstood. And I'm rambling now, but tying the conversations between, you know, one, of course, my love of Shaylee, but Ellie and your work, and Celeste and your work, and everyone's work of trust your gut and trust that you've been gaslit, and be in this space of people, this panel of women who want to empower you to trust your intuition, and bringing where our work and what we have learned in terms of trusting our intuition, and segueing into what I would really want to bring as my intention to this event is how to build expectation in a healthy way from our intentions through practice, through embodying our body, through witnessing our horses and witnessing each other, and also bringing play into discipline, which is new. It's one of my favorite things working with Amber the first time, because Amber and I are like at opposite ends of a very similar, you know, like holding opposite ends of this jump rope for humans. And I'm like, I'm very grounded and in the earth and doing the thing with my body. And Amber's going, yes, but and the stories and the breath work and working through that and the visualizations. And I was like, damn, that's so cool. And having that permission to play with the visuals and to develop that awareness and that knowledgeable action through discipline, through play.
Fun. Discipline. Play. I love that together.
Yeah, that's awesome. I love these stories too. That when I met Celeste, it was like go big or go home. And it's been that way. It's like we set the mark on that the day we met, and it's always been that. Like anytime Celeste is like, hey, I'm gonna introduce you to something, I'm like, oh gosh, like it's never just like something small. And like the day we met, it's like the first time I ever was trying to teach what I could see and what I could feel and know. And like I just knew that I could teach it to her and to others. And now it's just so cool because I teach it regularly now, like monthly. And it's just so amazing to me because every single student I've ever had has their own magic and their own medicine. But like speaking to the topic of like getting it right or wrong, Celeste and I had that moment where she was wildly accurate. The horse had a fractured pelvis and like she knew it, but because she couldn't see it, like she wasn't getting the visual. She was like, I don't know. Like I can't see. I can't. And I'm like, well, don't try to see. Like don't making it wrong that you can't see. Like what do you feel? And she's like, well, I feel the pelvis. And I'm like, yep. So I think there is like this misconception about animal communication because most people are visual, and like it's our sense that we can get so much validation from. Like when you can see something, it's like, oh, I can validate that that muscle is an issue, or I can validate that that hoof is imbalanced or whatever. And tapping into that like inner knowing and that felt sense is like one of the most vulnerable things. And a lot of times too with communication, we still are trying to look outside of ourselves. Like, you know, we get something and then, or like my students will get something and they'll be like, does he have? And I'm like, I don't know. Does he have? Like, what do you think it is? And it's fascinating to play with that. Yeah, having that safe space to be like, I don't know. What do you really think? And the person really sitting with that, because sometimes like you will create a preconceived notion too, and then when you have someone that's like giving you your power back and being like, oh, I don't know, like does he have a nerve, like do you really think he has a nerve impingement, or what do you think it is? The person will sit with that for a second and be like, actually, you know, I'm getting this, it's like I feel batshit crazy, but I'm getting this memory of the horse loading in a trailer back in the day and slipping and falling and it turns into this whole thing. And it's just so cool because we all have it within us. And it makes me so excited. Like I love this conversation.
Yeah,
I had no idea that was your first time teaching it. Like you never would have known. I didn't find that out until it was like a couple months. I didn't know that whole trip that was your first time teaching it. And then you were like, "Oh my God, you inspired me to like to actually teach this." And I was like, "What do you mean actually teach it, dog? You've been fucking doing it."
I know. And I was like, go big or go home. Like, this is freaking Celeste. She's a motherfucking celeb. And I'm like, gonna come and stand next to her. And then it was just so cool. Well, one, because then I communicated to your freaking baby in your womb,
Oh,
and that
yeah, that
was
just got weird because I was very early pregnant with my daughter, and she was like, "Do you?" And I was like, "What? Do you like kombucha?" And I was like, "Yeah." Why? She's like, "I think your daughter wants kombucha," and I had like just stopped drinking it recently, and I was like, "How would you have ever known that?"
Yeah, that was wild. We just like went for it. And that was that same day where, I brought Bro to you and I was like, and I hadn't really like tapped into Liberty work or anything yet. Like Bro was the horse that was like, hey, you've been living with your heart closed for like 27 years. Like you got to open this thing. And I remember telling you like because you went for his left hind and that was a hind that I could like never pick up and you picked up it was the most wild experience. Like to this day I love telling this story because you listened to me, but like it's like you had a conversation between all three of us and you were like, I'm gonna pick up the leg now. And I just immediately started bawling. And it did not feel like that was the first time ever where I was like, these are not my tears. Like it was my horse, like moving that energy, like just energy that like you saw in him, that you saw in me, that like was just ready to move. And it was so crazy because I was like convulsing, sobbing, and I was looking at Celeste and I was like, I'm sorry. Like, I don't know. I don't know why I'm crying right now. And it was just, like uncontrollable. And after that, like my horse was so calm. So our relationship changed forever. Like then I got into positive reinforcement. I did everything at Liberty with him. It's so cool. Like the universe is so cool how it conspires to bring us all together. And even everybody coming to this event, just like trusting their intuition to come to an event like this. Even like you might think that it's a cognitive decision to be part of this, but like there's just so much more at play, just even like as an attendee, in my opinion.
One of the big things that happened in that session that I think is so rad because that's what you teach all the time now is that you and I this happens with owners and horses all the time is like you had a story over that he wasn't gonna give me his left hind and that he couldn't release the stuff in his hind end. And when I work on people, it's the same thing. Like people get on my table and they have all the stories and the stories are true and they're valid. It's not that they're not, but the story that's in your mind is not the story that's in your fascia. Those are two very different conversations. And so I was listening to you and I wasn't dismissing it, but it also didn't matter. Right. Like it's, and then Bro kind of had his story, but then his fascia was doing one thing and I can just kind of sit and weave between it. But in that moment, all of a sudden you were like, oh, the story is not real. And it was just like, pop. And like, yeah, it's fine now. He's okay.
Yeah,
We're
intense.
okay.
Intense in the best way though.
And that's all you do now is you just show people to, that there's different stories and that it doesn't have to be that way. And I just think it's so beautiful how like you took it and it's just like that's so much of like what you teach and your gift to people. So
thank you.
Super rad.
Thank you.
Shaylee, your intention for the
Oh,
event.
I have to go.
Oh yeah, we're doing something. Sorry.
Oh my gosh.
You see
Also,
me wrangling wildcats all the time.
yeah, but also I'm an add-on. I'm not a presenter. Okay. I'm just
Oh,
Terry House, she's an add-on.
I thought you were the co-host to like
She
the
is.
whole thing.
yeah. Justin and I have this like thing going where he's always like my husband is like actually has a really cool job and like does really cool stuff and he's always like I'm just a guy, just an ordinary guy. So I'm always saying that. I'm like, I'm just an ordinary girl here. My intention is to hold space for anyone who wants it, any animal that wants to come through. I have found through elements of connection. I found when I'm with Celeste in particular, I end up like somehow getting velcroed to her at the events and like it's just I don't know. I think it's because that's how we started and um not to continue bringing it back to you, but it's just cool because that is how I started. Like, went to your clinic, and then you were like, "Hey, do you want to come talk to a horse?" That was the first time even that I talked to a horse in person. Like, I had only done like sessions over the phone where I'm like behind a screen and I can close my eyes and sit in a meditative position and have my crystals. And you were like, oh no, come over here. Like I need
I was like,
support.
come tag team this shit with me. Come here.
Yeah. I was like, hold on, what?
Like,
Like
I can read their fashion. I know what's going on with that, but I don't know their story and like what they're talking about. And then like that was super rad to do.
yeah, super cool.
Also, we don't ever see each other until we're at events, and we're basically sisters because my mom adopted you. So I don't know what you expect.
It's so true. So yeah, I guess my intention is just holding space for whoever wants or needs it. In events that I've done with Amber in the past, I tend to just open up my energy and like walk through the crowd and I just sit next to someone and I'm like, hey, so you know that dark bay with a blaze? Like I love that. I love that part because I love talking. And also I just love connecting with people. So I will probably do that and also um maybe talk a little bit. I think I have some stories that want to be shared at the event that have kind of come through in some of my meditations and um yeah, I can't really say what I'm gonna do because it really does unfold for me like in the moment based on the animals there. But my intention will be to hold space for horses and any other animals who want to have a voice in a way that I can deliver it.
Perfect. Go Steffi, because it's like midnight where you are.
Oh gosh.
It's like 12:30 actually.
Go to sleep.
It's fine. I love hanging out with you guys. So intentions. I guess for me it's very much this soundness piece. I know it's the name and I always come back to it and play on these words, but soundness is not just the physical, like I said, but also for me the emotional, the mental, the spiritual aspects. And I feel like, as many of you already said, this permission is such an important piece. And also for me in specific, because of that story that I shared about with my pony B, it's also the aspect of safety and connection that we have with another. So with another horse, but it could also be with another person. And what I've come to understand, much like the crazy revelations you've had, Amber, I've had to understand that this connection has to be here first and has to be with me first and foremost before I can then open up to another and see another for who they really are. I have to see myself first and find that safety and that connection within first. So I think my intention is to bring that and to hopefully, like Shaylee, also hold space for whatever comes up. That is, I think none of us bring a set like 5-step plan. This is what we're going to do. And it's very much about being in the moment and connecting with what's there and watching it unfold. That's become my new favorite word. So yeah, so that is my intention. I'm ready to see how things are going to unfold, but hopefully I can weave some of those aspects into it.
Yay. So fun. Ellie, you want to go?
Yeah, two words that came to mind were remember, and like the remembering of parts of ourselves. And the other word was whakarongo, which means to listen, the act of listening. And when we break that word down, rongo is the senses. And so I think that's beautiful because it's not just listen through our ears, but listen through everything that we have available to us. And then further on from that, rongoa is healing. And I think those are two of my intentions. Yeah.
Perfect. So perfect. I love it when you speak in your different. I feel like it's like a little, it's like medicine in my ears. As soon as you start talking, I'm like, I don't know what she's saying, but I love it.
No, a little gift.
I know.
I've just started learning our language this year, and it's so poetic. Like it's a language of the body, and it's a language of the environment. Like if you were talking about about learning something, you would talk about the keriru, the birds in the forest that gather the seeds. And I'm just like, what is this language? Like, I'm like, oh, I'm in love. So I love to share it.
Yeah, that's so cool. I know when you like speak the words, I feel like I feel them in my heart. I'm like, oh, this is like so it is. It's like very poetic sounding.
Thank you.
Catherine. Oh wait, you went already. Just kidding. Dana.
I was a good girl. I followed directions.
All right. Sorry, my kids, everybody just got home, so they came in to give me an update on how their day went. Everybody's everybody's surviving high school. And they're coming home happy with life. So makes my mama heart feel good. So my intention is, I mean, can I say ditto? Is that fair? Yes, yes, yes. All of the above.
Yeah.
So my intention is to, you know, hold space for everything to show up exactly the way it's supposed to. And by not being resistant within myself and being present within myself, then allowing that then to invite those around me, even if it's silently, to do the same. And then as far as, the typical, what would I like the person who works with me to leave with is, I really would love to be able to send, how often do people go to events or clinics and we get in the moment and we get super excited and inspired and then we leave. And now we're back into our regular patterns and the regular environment that we do the things in. And we're like, oh, now what do I do? Or we find ourselves falling back into the patterns that maybe don't serve us in our goal. And so my intention in that regard would be to the best of my ability and through the support of others that are there, to find ways to send people away with the tools to continue the success outside of our event.
Yeah.
So even if it's just whether for that individual person, like that's one of my jams, is to kind of check in with somebody physically and verbally and energetically, like what is their learning style and what really resonates with them, and then finding a way to give them it, whether it's a cue word or even a specific stance with their horse, or a saying, or even an exercise, whether it's silly and invokes joy or helps them to remember, so that they have something to revisit, to give them the power to revisit that space and be inspired to continue that progress outside of the event.
Yeah. So day 3, each day has a ceremony or a theme. So day 3, we are definitely have a little thing, and we'll be sending home everyone with something to be able to embody the energy of the event. So you can keep it with you and remember, and also we'll
hold on to it.
Stay connected, through the Facebook group. And I know that the integration back into real life is always the trickiest thing for people from events like this. And so that is something that we definitely put a lot of focus on aftercare. The aftercare. So yeah, so that'll be part of it too. Tara, did you go? I can't remember now. No, you're the last standing.
Yeah, so my intentions for what I want to bring to this event is my dream would be to leave people with tools for deepening and developing connection through heightening and refining awareness. And all of that with the goal of developing language through which we can communicate clear with the horse and with ourselves.
Perfect.
Concise, sorry.
It's beautiful. It's like a little I just was like talking about you to, I can't remember who it was. And they were like, oh, Tara. And I was like, Tara. And whenever I say her name, I'm like, Tara, because whenever you speak, it's like Ellie's like voice and the things she says. I'm like, oh, it's like magic flows from you. what I was going to share with everyone here and for people watching the replay is that I know there was a lot of people that wanted to come and couldn't make the travel. So we are actually, in fact, offering a live stream that we are going to do. And then anyone who actually purchases this ticket will get the recording of the live stream as well. And I know people were asking and asking, and we couldn't make the decision and I couldn't do it. And finally, Heather actually, so some of you were asking, Heather Corneman was going to be a presenter. And I haven't gotten her off the sales page yet, but she had some personal stuff come up. So we're hoping that she will be able to meet us there and come visit. But we've just built a cushion around that. But she connected me with somebody who does live stream. And I just set the intention. I said, if he can do it and he can get the time off work and he can do that, then that'll be my decision. And so it just all unfolded really easily. So that's what's happening. So there is going to be a live feed, and then there's going to be a recording sent out to everyone that actually comes so that you guys can rewatch it and revisit it. You know, sometimes when you're in it and you're in the moment, it kind of gets a little like, wait, what just happened? And you guys can go back and watch it again. And also for anyone that signed up to this link, we're going to give you a little coupon. And it's good until Monday at midnight. So if you guys do want to do the live feed, I'll send this all out in an email for you guys. But when you check out, you can do happy hour in the code and it'll give you $47 off. So it'll just be $100 for stream. So very accessible for all the people that are like, we don't even live there. We can't travel. So now you can come. You can come and be with us. You guys will get added to the Facebook group. So if you have questions throughout, you'll be able to put them in there. And then on Sunday, there'll be the live question and answer panels. Your questions can get answered as if you were here with us. Logistically, very quickly, we'll run through the first day's Thursday. If you guys do a full immersion pass, I think there's 3 spots left. That is an entire ceremony with Shaylee and I starting Thursday afternoon. And then in the evening, you'll have dinner catered with all of the presenters, cocktail hour, hangout time, live music at the venue, which is amazing. The main event starts Friday. So each presenter will have an hour or so, and Shaylee and I will be weaving things within it. Catherine will be bringing you back into your body. There will be food Friday night available and also live music. And then some of the vendors will be there. There's some local artists and the supporting professionals that are there, dentists, farrier. We have a bioscan person and Rochelle's in medical intuitive. All people that I've worked with that I know that are amazing. They're all going to have booths there. So if you guys want the support and some different resources, people to talk to that, you know, you're not going to feel like, oh, I don't know what I'm talking about. Everyone is very loving and open and supportive. And so that will be Friday night. So you'll have a lot of hangout time after. And Saturday is just the event, same thing. Our presentations, you're all cut loose to go do dinner on your own. And then Sunday morning, we're going to do a live question and answer panel under the oak trees, and you guys will get all your questions answered, have some breakfast, and connect before you get on the road. So if you guys are interested, I'll send this link out and I'll put it everywhere. And yeah, and if you guys can't come live, now you can come virtually. So excited to be able to connect with everybody. And thank you guys for coming and hanging out. I still am so just shocked that all of us were like, we can all do the same time. We're like, what? When does that ever happen? So it was definitely meant to be. So yeah, so if you guys have any questions beyond this, you're watching the replay, feel free to just reach out to me. You can message me on Instagram or Facebook, wherever you found this. And yeah, I'm so glad you guys all had fun. Lots of comments in the chat box. So yeah. Thank you guys. It was so much fun. It was fun hanging out.
Yeah, thanks for hanging out, guys.
I'll see you guys in a couple weeks. I'm so excited.
Bye. Bye.
Bye.